Hello, my name is Kelly from Kelly's Tutoring, and today we're going to be discussing back to school. So, as a parent, guardian, carer, your children and teenagers may be feeling just a little bit apprehensive, a little bit dubious, or perhaps just really anxious about going back to school. Or you could be on the other end of the spectrum, both parent, guardian, carer, and child or teenager are feeling ecstatic and elated and cannot wait to get back. Now, wherever you are, I just want to say that it's absolutely fine. Do not make yourself wrong or your child or teenager wrong for the way they are feeling. Now, what's really interesting is all of the children that I've spoken to, whether they be in primary school or secondary school, are saying the same thing. Yes, I am looking forward to going back to school, seeing my friends, doing some work with some feedback, but I'm not looking forward to it at the same time. And the reason for it is I'm not used to it. Time and time again, they say I'm not used to it anymore. The early mornings, having to sit there. And the other thing, which is really crucial, is it's going to be weird. It's going to be strange. Not being able to hug my friends, not being able to play with them so vigorously in the playground, sitting separately in the classroom. And that makes sense, right? As humans, we are creatures of habits. So how can you help your child or teenager to adjust to back to school? Well, this last week of the summer holiday is crucial in getting them back into a good routine. If they've been out of routine, staying up late, and then waking up in the afternoon, then it's important that you start to try and get them into bed a bit earlier, getting them up a bit earlier, so that they are ready and raring to go on the first day of school. So you want to start small, not all at once, because it'll be so overwhelming and it'll just make them feel even more fearful and resentment. So do it a little bit, maybe just an hour. They go to bed an hour earlier, then they wake up an hour earlier than they have been doing, and you scale it back bit by bit so it's not a shock to the system. You might encourage them to do a little bit more reading, a little bit more structured exercises so that they get used to sitting down, concentrating, so that they are aware of what's required of them for when they go back to school. And then what I think is really essential is get in contact with your child or teenager's school. Ask them, what are they putting in place? What can you expect? And that way then you can divulge that information to your child. Explain to them that they might be sitting at desks in a different manner. Actually, maybe role play that, set it up in your home. You could use cushions and have them separated. Encourage them to understand about the way in which we can't share equipment anymore. Children will not be allowed to share their equipment. So again, getting them used to, keeping their belongings to themselves, which is very counterintuitive, right? We instill in our children and teens share. If someone needs to, borrow a pen, lend it to them. But we're being asked now to tell our children not to do that. Also, think about practicalities as well. Some children, particularly teenagers, are concerned, well, if they're going to have to carry all of their books with them, all of their stationery, their packed lunch, their bags are going to be extremely heavy. For primary school, it might be less so. But actually trying to consider that is also really important for, physical reasons as well. So they don't hurt their back. What can you do to help them talk to the school? What can they leave at school? Can they have just one book then for everything? I know some schools have said to kids, bring your own laptops instead. That way then they don't have to use books. That way then they're using their own equipment. So again, it's really important that you discuss with the schools what they're putting in place and what they're expecting. And some children as well, they're wanting to wear masks in school. Now, some schools have said that they are going to have that put in place, that children have to, particularly in communal areas. But the government rules and regulations are stipulating that in England, not necessarily Scotland, Wales and Ireland, but in England, it's not mandatory. Now, as a parent, it's your right to do what you feel is best for your child. So if you're like, actually, I want my child to wear a mask, then communicate that immediately with the school. I'm pretty sure that they will respect your wishes. After all, it's your child's health. And if they have peace of mind, you have peace of mind. It will help to nurture them and support them mentally, emotionally, because that's what's really key here because of all the changes that are occurring. So do make sure that you are in communication. And as I said, if you can role play this all at home, it will help to lessen the impact when they go to school, so it doesn't seem so strange and peculiar and abnormal. They kind of know what's expected, they've run through it, so that way then it just helps with the transitioning period. And then finally, just keep in communication with them, after school, particularly with teenagers. They might not want to talk or open up so much, so it's important that you ask open-ended questions and not just questions that have a yes or no answer, and that way then you can really gauge where they're at. And if you are feeling concerned, again, talk to the teachers as well, maybe as well talk to other parents, their friends as well if possible, so that way then you've got a good support structure and support network, especially since with all the changes they're saying that the classes will be like bubbles, like a family structure almost, isn't it? So it's important that you have that dialogue and communication. If possible, set up a WhatsApp group, try and set up a Zoom call perhaps weekly as well. Might support your kids in terms of communication as well, so that they can just get anything that they want off their chest. So trying to look at creative ways in which you can create support groups for them within the school will be really helpful and really useful. Again, just communication is really, really key. I can't stress that enough. So overall then, for back to school, to beat the back to school blues as it were, encourage your children, teenagers, in this last week of summer holidays to get back into good habits by making sure they go to bed a bit earlier, getting them up a bit earlier, helping them to do tasks that require a little bit more focus. Maybe it's a jigsaw puzzle, maybe it's colouring, maybe it's just doing a bit more reading, so that they're in the zone for when they go back to school. Create creative support networks by talking to fellow parents, their friends, the teachers, creating a WhatsApp group, weekly Zoom calls, so that way then you can be in constant dialogue. And then role playing at home, what's expected, explaining, answering questions. And I would just say as well, overall, if you as a parent are feeling anxious and nervous, you're going to instill that into your child, even if you do it subconsciously. So it's really important that you feel confident so that you can make sure that your children feel confident too. You can instill that in them, which is really important, not only for their well-being and self-esteem, but for safety as well, if they're confident in what they're doing. So you might want to practice, taking on and off the masks appropriately and properly, encouraging them to just throw it on the floor, encouraging them, to sneeze appropriately, having that conversation with them and getting them used to it so that it's not abnormal. They can do it independently on their own, which is really important for young kids in particular. And then, as I say, talking to your children, asking open-ended questions, especially teenagers, so that they feel comfortable and safe, because I know that the government have saying they're being really strict and saying that all kids have to be back, and if they're not, there will be fines and penalties. However, their mental and emotional well-being is so paramount and so important. So if you have any concerns with them in terms of that, talk to the GP as well, talk to the school. And a lot of head teachers said they're going to be flexible as well and not looking to punish. I would love to hear any concerns that you have. What are your thoughts? What are your fears? And as I said, a lot of children, teenagers that I've spoken to have said the same thing. I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be weird. So help them to adjust with that weirdness and try to make things as normal as possible for them, or at least as familiar, should I say, very familiar, so that they don't feel too uncomfortable. And help to get that relatability by discussing it with other people, other parents, other kids. As I said, I can't stress that enough. But I would love to hear from you. So please comment below. What are your concerns? What are you most looking forward to about going back to school? What are you dreading the most? or any other issues that you may have, I will get back to you. And remember, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.